manage International Conference on Agricultural Extension and Advisory Services, Innovations to Impact. We are started on 25th and last 2 days we had two keynote speakers. One is from Christine Davis from UFRI and another one is from FAO, Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy. He is the head of the FAO Research and Extension Wing. And apart from that, we had important three invited speakers from Professor Norris from Michigan State University and Dr. Mahesh Chandra from Indian Council of Agriculture Research, IBRI, India, and again, Dr. PVK Sachidhar from India. He is from IGNO, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. And apart from that, we also had 10 interesting presentations from the young scientists from starting from Ethiopia to, and most of the other papers are from India. They are representing ICR institutes and universities and also Krishi Vigyan Kendras. Today is the third day. We are having very quite interesting sessions on ICTs, digital extension systems, and first one from we will be having Rikin Gandhi. He is from Digital Green, and followed by we are having another interesting session from John James, and also followed by there are a number of speakers. There are research scholars, Mr. Sandeep and Dr. Surudi, scientist from ICAR, and again there is a PhD scholar from Indian Council of Agriculture Research, IRI, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi, Nandini Saka. And again, afternoon we are hearing something like digital extension system by Dr. Paul Van Mille. He is director for the International Development Access Agriculture, and followed by there are quite interesting papers from the other researchers and research scholars and scientists from India. And today we'll start with the first session with Mr. Rikin Gandhi. And Rikin Gandhi, can you unmute your video? Are you available? Yeah, Rikin Gandhi.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, Rikin Gandhi, good morning.
Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, or good evening for you. Are you hearing?
Yes, I can hear you.
Your voice is not coming. You are unmute or?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
That's okay.
You cannot hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are not hearing, I suppose.
Oh.
Kausik, are you hearing?
Yes, sir. It is audible, but a bit. You can increase your
Kausik?
volume.
Oh,
Yes, sir. You
how
can
about now? Is this
increase your
better?
volume, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Is this better?
Yes, sir.
Is this okay? Okay.
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
So I've made Mr. Rikin Gandhi as a presenter. You can share your slide.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you today.
Just a minute, Rikin. I thought of introducing to you. Now I'm hearing. Yeah, just I thought of introducing to you. Kausik, can you put the Rikin slide, because the many of these participants from the Department of Agriculture, they are developmental professionals across the country, and also there are other PhD scholars and research. And even though you are doing widely more than 1 decade, and if in the somebody is not aware, or even we are putting for this one online, Kausik, can you share Rikin Gandhi's slide? That will be good for me.
Yes, sir. I'm looking for the slides.
Yeah, otherwise I will share, no problem. You can put the share option, no?
I got it, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, can you make it full? Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Rikin Gandhi is co-founder of Digital Green, a global development organization that empowers smallholder farmers to lift themselves out of poverty by harnessing the collective power of digital technology and grassroots level of partnership. Simple participatory farmer participatory digital video, it makes magic in last almost it's 1.5 decade. He is working on it. Started a small Microsoft research corporate social responsibility research project in somewhere in Karnataka, in near Bangalore, and it is grown as its institution, and it's one of the global developmental institution for reaching larger number of small and marginal farmers. Rikin begins his career at Oracle, and where he received the patents for linguistic search algorithm that he helped to develop. Later, he joined Microsoft Research Technology for emerging markets team in India, where he researched ways to amplify the effectiveness of agriculture development globally. Digital Green uses peer-to-peer farming videos to increase the efficiency of agricultural extension services and a shared logistics to market service to boost farmers' incomes. Digital Green is now building the Farmstock as an open platform to enable the 2 million smallholder farmers across sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, and that it has already worked with to control and share their own data with support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, DFID, Walmart Foundation, and others. Rikin has a bachelor's in computer science from Carnegie Mellon University, a master's in aeronautical and astronautical engineering from MIT, and is a licensed private pilot, but he takes up all the things in the field only. He takes up with the digital green in the farm field. He's very much grounded across the globe, and India and most African countries. He is working along with a large number of small and marginal farmers, and also quite interesting studies and comparison when we go for the traditional extension system when supported with the farmers are supported with this type of digital technology dissemination, the community screenings, at least 10 times it is increasing their adoption level and income like that. There was findings even 1 decade before also. Maybe today we'll hear a lot of very exciting things about digital green. Yes, Rikin, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raj, for that very kind introduction. It's great to be here with all of you. And as was mentioned, we started Digital Green back in 2006, initially as a part of Microsoft Research in Bangalore, in a group looking at technology for emerging markets to see how can technology be used to amplify the effectiveness of agricultural extension systems that focus on small-scale producers. This was back in 2006, so things like mobile phones and internet connectivity were not very prevalent. But where we started Digital Green was by partnering with organizations that were already providing on-the-ground agricultural extension services in the form of farmer field schools and demonstration plot types of training sessions. And we sought to see how can we improve and increase their impact and efficiency. The core of our model focuses on using videos that are produced by and for farmers to share best practices in the form of short 8 to 10 minute testimonials, demonstrations of improved practices that really feature these local farmers as the stars so that other fellow farmers can recognize them, be motivated by them, and say that if this farmer can do this practice, then I can too. And oftentimes the first two questions that farmers ask when they watch these videos is not about the economics of the practice, but rather what's the name of the farmer in the video and which village is he or she from. This work has now scaled to more than 8 countries across South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, and we work with more than 2 million odd farmers. Now, what I want to focus my talk today is about how this intervention is collecting data about and for farmers, and how that data can power many more types of applications and services, some of which may not be done by Digital Green at all. And where it begins for us is how this content is produced. So we partner with local organizations, for instance, in India with the National Rural Livelihood Mission, as well as in particular states, various state rural livelihood missions, as well as departments of agriculture, for instance, the Department of Agriculture in Andhra Pradesh or Jivika in Bihar. And we train their field functionaries to produce these videos with the farmers that they're already conducting demonstrations with. And as they're producing these short films, data is collected about who is the farmer that is being featured in the video, who is the agricultural extension agent, who is facilitating the conversation around the video, what was the time and the location, the language, and the particular focus crop that this video pertains to. Similarly, when these videos are shown typically offline in women's self-help group or farmer group type of screenings once every fortnight in sync with the cropping season in a particular location, data again is collected about who were the individual farmers that watched each video. What was the video that they watched? Who was the agricultural extension agent that facilitated not just the passive video screening, but had an interactive discussion around that video? And what was the time and location where that video was shown? And what were the practices that farmers ultimately adopted or applied on their farms afterwards? As Dr. Raj mentioned, we've been able to see a 10x improvement of agricultural extension services as a result of this amplification of their work using these peer-to-peer videos that are facilitated amongst these farmer groups. But it's really important to capture data at every single one of these engagements that a farmer has with each video screening. And that is then used to power a number of other applications as well. And of course, with COVID, many of these group screenings have had to change. And of course, rural internet usage has now exceeded urban internet usage in India. And so now there's new modalities in which these rural communities are gaining access to this content. But similarly, data is also collected about who is watching which video in what location and at what time. And with this combination of data that comes from both online as well as offline type of screenings, and as I said, we work with 2 million farmers in offline settings, and more than 66 million individuals have watched these videos online on YouTube, as well as on our website. We're able to then organize this content into curriculum based on particular subject matters or crops, from end-to-end practices from seed treatment to post-harvest management, and not just show those videos, but also include the data about how many individual farmers watched each video, which of them did they like, or which ones did they actually adopt and apply on their fields. And this data and this feedback that is integrated with this knowledge repository of content that is produced by the community and for the community is a great resource for knowledge management, because not every single video is produced equally. Some videos result in a lot of impact, and others result in a lot of questions and may also have low degrees of adoption. And this informs the production and distribution of the next set of content that is produced by our extension partners on the ground. Now, in summary, essentially, what we start with are these farmers themselves, who already, of course, have their informal social networks about how they share information with one another, with their family members, with their neighbors. They share what practices they're following and what crops or livestock they're focused upon. But then, of course, there are these government programs like the National Rural Livelihood Mission, various Ministry of Agriculture types of programs that have these field extension forces on the ground that mobilize these rural communities and engage them. Nowadays, in a country like India, we have more than 1,000 agri-tech startups, many of whom are working on precision agriculture, extension support, as well as other aspects of the value chain, from marketplaces to connect farmers to consumers, to drone startups, to so many others. There's a real opportunity to think about how do we layer digital technology. I gave just an example of how videos as well as data can improve the efficiency of these systems, but there's an opportunity to go beyond these individual, isolated or siloed interventions, even including digital greens with our government extension partners, and see how do we take this data and this content and expand it so that it can be interoperable with other organizations in the sector that might be working on other aspects of the value chain, whether that is markets, credit, insurance, or others, to maximize the impact that agricultural extension, which by its very nature is a holistic intervention, can have an impact upon. So I'm going to introduce you to a new initiative that at Digital Green we're working on, which is called Farmstock, which is an open source data exchange protocol that codifies the types of data protections that organizations, including Digital Green, have as well as our government partners, that can alleviate the types of challenges that currently exist between why organizations don't share their data today. Many of the main reasons that organizations that collect data about and for farmers, like the type that Digital Green and our government partners collect, which is what is the location of a farmer? What are the crops that he or she grows? What's their contact information? Or what kind of transactional history might they be having? What is their interaction with agricultural extension services? Some of the reasons why this data is siloed into our independent databases is, one, because of trust, because we want to make sure that this data is protected and that it is only used for its intended purpose. And obviously, a lot of this data includes very private information of these individual farmers. And so there's a need for security to make sure that if this data is shared, that it is protected and is only used for the pre-specified purpose and duration of intended use. And finally, there's issues of data quality, to know who has what data at what resolution, and how can we integrate these disparate data sets together to, again, bring together these various interventions to maximize their combined impact. So with Farmstock, what we're attempting to try to solve is this problem of how do you get organizations who have data about and for farmers to be able to protect the interests of the various parties' data that this belongs to, including and most especially the farmers themselves, but are able to do so directly without having to go through an intermediary like Digital Green or any other organization. Because today, many of the organizations that collect data are becoming data aggregators, and in the West, much of this is becoming increasingly integrated by many of the large agribusiness corporations for their own utilization. But for the farmers themselves, they are unable to derive the benefit and value, including the ability to monetize this data for their own benefit. And so with Farmstock, what organizations are essentially able to do is to make a peer-to-peer connection with an organization that they want to share their data with, and codify the type of data usage policies that they might have in a legal agreement and put it in software so that they can be sure that this data, if I said that this can only be used for a credit scoring purpose, can only be used for that application, and that organization or bank who I may have shared that data with is unable to store or forward that data further. This essentially takes the typical model of how data is shared, which is very binary. Either I give you my data or I don't give you my data. And if I give you my data, you can essentially do whatever you want with it. You can store it, you can publish it onto the internet. And at that point, me as the data provider lose control of my data. And we've seen it in the cases of the various types of Facebook and Cambridge Analytica types of scandals that have made it into mass media. And what we're essentially trying to codify through Farmstock is the much more flexible or nuanced types of data protections that organizations want, which is, I'm willing to share my data with you, but only if I'm able to anonymize the personally identifiable pieces of data, or that my proprietary data is only used for, again, a pre-specified purpose or a pre-specified duration. And we believe that this has an opportunity to enable organizations that might be storing their data in various ways, whether on the cloud, on a local device, to be able to exchange data directly, peer-to-peer, and codify these types of data usage policies to power a huge variety of different types of applications, whether that is extension and precision agriculture types of services, or market and other financial or insurance products, but really put the power of this data into the hands of the farmers themselves so that they can choose who they share their data with and be sure that that intended purpose will be protected. And that's, we believe, is what that this can enable. And with that, let me just share one quick video before I conclude with this kind of closing statement. One quick second.
Savita is a chili farmer from Bihar in India who is part of a farmer-producer organization that meets regularly to watch Digital Green's videos on good agronomic practices. She has been struggling to find buyers and to sell her crop at a good price. To sell her crop, she needs information on potential buyers and what they demand. But proprietary data on demand rests with buyers themselves, who either don't know how or are unwilling to share it without data protections. Let's call this node 1. Buyers need information on farmers like Savita and her chili supply. But Savita lists her production and harvest plans with a local producer organization, which does not have easy ways to share this personally identified data without compromising privacy. Let's call this node 2. We need an easy and secure way to exchange data across these nodes. Let's explore one example of a use case for Farmstock. Imagine a digital marketplace called Loop that uses WhatsApp chatbots to connect farmers with buyers. Loop requests supply and demand data from both the nodes via Farmstock. Producer organizations and buyers each define their own usage policies. The producer organization requires privacy and anonymization for farmers, and buyers require that their proprietary data is not publicly shared on the internet. Loop can use this data only after the producer organization and buyers each provide consent. In this way, Loop gets access to the location, the quantity, and the quality of the chilies Savita wants to sell, along with photos and videos of her crop to build an online catalog. At the same time, Loop also gets data on the quality and quantity of chili that buyers demand. Just like Loop, any marketplace service or a big box aggregator or retailer could request data directly from farmers or buyers in the same way via Farmstock's peer-to-peer architecture without needing to go through Digital Green or any third-party organization. Savita can choose Loop or any other service she prefers and sell her chilies easily at the highest price, while buyers get the freshest produce directly from farmers. Just as she shares her supply data, Savita can also share other data, from transaction activity with banks for better credit to production plans with researchers for better extension videos. In this way, we can keep serving the need of all rural communities and together build a resilient future.
So just to conclude, what we've really found has been that whether it's digital technologies in the form of videos or data, really its impact is had by building on the foundational blocks of physical infrastructure, human capital, political institutions, and finance. Only then can the tools of digital technologies, whether it's peer-to-peer videos or data of the type that Farmstock can share, can that then amplify the capacities and the intentions of organizations and individuals that are enabling farmers to take this agency into their own hands to maximize their impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rikin, for quite interesting presentation. And if any questions from participant side, you can put in the chat box. We will another 10-15 minutes there. We can discuss with Mr. Rikin. Any questions, and you can put it in chat box. Yeah, Mr. Rikin, this Farmstock is very interesting, quite interesting. When people are around the globe, they think that data is the money. Data is the money, and people look for the everybody's data. And again, data is the decision making. Even agriculture, we see, as you rightly told, large number of startups are coming. Agriculture, whether it's a poultry or any sector, even we have almost 300 agri startups in Manage itself. Our own organization, we are promoting out of 300 agri startup. At least maybe 1/4 of them try to use our advanced technologies, artificial intelligence or IoT, other smart technologies, including remote sensing. Like similarly, our ministry promotes last year alone, there is a 446 plus startups, and every year we are going to promote in India from the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, maybe 500 to 600 startups it will come. But for first 450 startups, it took nearly more than a decade in India. Up to 2018, only 450 startups, but it took only 12 years or 13 years. But today, every year, this many number of startups are coming. That's why India is one of the biggest vibrant agri startup ecosystem. Every 9th startups coming from India. There is a data says like that. It's true also. And when these number of startups and many players are coming, digital green, like there is a established player in particular area in digital green, working with the governments and individuals, also with NGOs, many. How you see opportunities in work with this type of startup, and also another interesting thing, farmer producer organizations. One side there are large number of individuals are coming, and there are agri startups, and next side there is a farmer are coming to group and put large number 10,000 farmer producer organization countries thinks about that, and how digital green sees next step when there are different players are entering. When you started digital green, it is you are alone, you started, and it was a wonderful journey. You had 1.5 years, but like you, today large number of youngsters are people from IITs, IIMs, engineering colleges, or innovators from rural youth. Like that, there are many they are coming after so many years. And how you see this development and what digital green can play in next coming years? That's what my question is.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, and you're right. When we started in 2006 as a research project at Microsoft, there were only a couple of organizations that were working on using digital technology for agricultural extension. Groups like IIT Bombay with a AAQUA system for question and answer for farmers, eSagu from IIIT Hyderabad by Dr. P.K. Reddy. So now, of course, as you said, there's more than 1,000 agri-tech startups in India, and many, as you said, are being incubated by Manage, which is wonderful to hear. And I think that this has really brought a lot of new talent, especially from the rural communities themselves, as well as new capital from venture capital to various types of social impact investors as well into this space. The role that we at Digital Green aspire to support is not to compete with these organizations. We think that it's great that they're working and they're competing and they're trying to make an impact. What we are trying to do is to see how can we create some digital infrastructure that can support such organizations, whether they're the agri-tech startups or they're the government. And that's where Farmstock comes in, which is like all these organizations are collecting data and content about farmers, but they put them in their own individual silos. Some of that is for good reason, because they are commercial ventures. And so they do want to keep their own data and their own content proprietary. But at the same time, if I'm an organization, let's say that is building weather sensors, that weather sensor data that I might be collecting and might be doing some artificial intelligence to give some advice to a farmer, that same data could be very useful to share with, let's say, a bank or an insurance company. Now, when I share that data, there's a real risk for me as a company to say that that data could be misused in a way that I was unintended. And so that's what Farmstock does, is it basically codifies the types of data protections that I want as a company or as a farmer to make sure that my interests are preserved and that the data is not misused or is not stored and then published in a way that I had not intended. And that's what we think is the real opportunity. In a lot of other sectors outside of like agriculture, a lot of organizations do create this kind of digital infrastructure. If you think about in banks, there is programs like Beam or such things for like digital payment services layer that exist, that the government of India and others have built. In agriculture, we don't have that. And so what we need to do is invest in that digital infrastructure that can enable both public as well as private types of interventions to flourish.
Quite interesting, and it's really it is interesting to see the organization like you putting the digital infrastructure and also privacy issues you are taking care. That may be the biggest concern you are telling. That's a great thing to hear actually, because of this data, farmers and other stakeholders, they can create some efficient some their own systems. Then it will be very great. Yeah, fine. Now you are already in not only in India, you are in African countries and many places. And how you see there are a different set of environments you are working. There are projects in Andhra Pradesh and also in Ethiopia, or Kenya, or Ghana, somewhere you are working. It's a very diverse set of regions, and everywhere farmers are there, but their own climatic conditions are their own socio-economic. Many things hinders. How you adjust with across globally when you are working with different diversified regions and other set of people, and what are the challenges you face when you do like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities. So, like for instance, between Andhra Pradesh and let's say Ethiopia, these are two like major geographies that we work in. The level of connectivity is much higher in Andhra Pradesh. You know, it's more than 60-70% of like rural communities are having smartphones in Andhra Pradesh, whereas in Ethiopia it's still like less than 10%, and there's only one telecom operator in the whole country, right? So there is that kind of like digital divide difference. But on the other hand, there's something that is very similar, which is everyone wants to make sure that they can trust the source of information that they're relying upon from a point of view of extension services. And they also want to trust that if I'm going to have data collected about me and is going to be used for me, that it's not going to be misused and that I'm not going to be exploited, right? That these kind of like basic principles are sort of human shared. And that's how we take all of our approaches. We don't take videos from Andhra Pradesh and we don't take them to Ethiopia. The videos are produced at a district level in Andhra Pradesh and at a district level in Ethiopia, so that the both from an agroecological point of view, but also from a socio-cultural point of view, that individual farmers are able to relate with the people that they see in these videos and say, if this person can do it, then I can. But at the same time, the principles of local content production, facilitated video screening, data in a way that is protects the interests of the individuals involved, those things are the same. We then localize these principles with our local partners so that it's done in a contextual way that is going to relate with the communities.
Yeah, that's great. And another interesting question from Sivaraman Ayyamperumal. Yeah, we also see nowadays globally there is a realization. Earlier 90s or 80s, only public sector extension can reach the farmers. They can monopoly, almost they are doing it. But today, government also realizes from since 2000, last 2 decades, private sector participation is important. It is a big way it is emerging, whether NGOs or initiative like IT, there are those who are enthusiasts like you and many, they are doing it. How you see how we can align with the government systems, and somebody asked how we can make the convergence with the mainstream system, and how it is happening, or you face a lot of resistance or difficulty. Always they come with a different culture of working and you go with a different culture, and how with aligning with the national extension systems across globally we are working, India or Ethiopia or other countries. How you see this difficulty, or it's challenging, or it is very easy to work with public extension systems? Yeah, how we can easily convergence happens? Can you say resources very easily, or how it is happening?
Yeah, I mean, our experience has been to really focus on partnering with public extension programs, whether that is in Ethiopia, Ministry of Agriculture, India, Ministry of Rural Development or Agriculture. And the reason why we do that is because information can only have so much impact. You also need to make the physical connections to inputs, to offtake markets or mandis and all these kind of things. And so you do need some degree of an extension force on the ground to facilitate some of these interventions with the farming community. That's how the digital bits have to combine with the physical sort of atoms that need to be moved. And in our experience, we found that by having shared objectives with our extension partners in government around focusing on common impact metrics, like we want to improve the cost per farmer reach. We want to reduce the cost per adoption via these ICT or digital channels. By emphasizing that goal, then we are able to see that kind of partnership come together. I would say there is sometimes a challenge with digital technologies that are trying to disintermediate the physical on-the-ground extension agents. And of course, there are some very popular ICT, or mobile apps for extension, whether that's like the Plantix app or Krishify or Animal in India. These have like plus million type of farmers who use these things. And I think for a demographic of farmers, like on the upper tiers, they are able to go to YouTube, to go to these apps and find the information and apply it directly on their fields. And that's great. Those are the progressive farmers, so to speak. But for the vast majority of farmers, you still need to combine human facilitation with these digital technologies if you're going to have an impact, especially for the marginalized communities like women who still need some of that facilitation and support.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Rikin. It is very great to hear from you, and also we are very delighted to know about Farmstock and data privacy issues you are taking care, and it's very interesting. And on behalf of Manage, all the participants, we see all the best for our work, and we look for future collaborations and also to discuss much more about technology, how it is changing the extension, because maybe globally only Institute for Agriculture Extension maybe manage, National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management. I don't know, anywhere you have seen this institute only dedicated as a national or national level, maybe probably the national manage is there, and we used to collaborate, and always we will give a lot of importance for digital green. We feel we support many times your colleague Pritham is part of all the training programs. We want to see the digital green information to reach to large number of public sector extension professionals so that the collaboration participation happens. We hope for that partnership and collaboration make a lot of difference for whole extension systems, and all the best, and your work globally will work, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much for today joining with us. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Raj, and I look forward to building on our collaboration with Manage and your partners going forward. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rikin. Yeah, thank you.